Thank you. And good morning, everybody. Great to see you. Thanks for taking the time to be here. It's an honor for you to be here at the Estancia. I'll talk about that in just a moment. I wanted to just understand demographics in the room real quickly. Could you raise your hand if you've lived in San Antonio for more than 10 years? I'm going to say 60 to 70%. And those who've lived here for less than 10 years. Okay. And those who don't live in San Antonio. What's the matter? Okay. Well, for those who don't live in San Antonio, we just won the NBA lottery last night. You should think about coming to San Antonio. Super excited. Eric, thank you for all you're doing for San Antonio. I'm not sure where you're seated, but anyway. Okay, so I just had a couple of things to talk about, and then I'll get out of the way and let you guys hear from the panelists. So I'm both from San Antonio and I live in San Antonio, but I had a hole in between where I was an investment banker. I worked in M&A. I worked for a company called McKinsey, lived all over the country, and came back roughly 10 years ago to invest back in San Antonio. And so I wanted to talk about my story just for a moment. I came back to San Antonio for three reasons. First was family. Thought San Antonio was a great place for my kids to grow up, and for my wife and myself to be a part of this community. Second is community. This is a special community. Those of us who live in San Antonio know it. I don't need to go into detail with you guys. For those of you who don't live in San Antonio, I hope that you'll get a taste of that hospitality while you're here in San Antonio, and you'll get a sense for that. And then third is investment. That's what we're going to talk about today. So why is San Antonio a great place to invest? In very simple terms, it's risk versus reward. On the risk side of the equation, I bought a data company a few years ago that looks at economic data. We compile data. Now, we're primarily focused on the hospitality industry, but we can run statistics. And when you look at the ebbs and flows, the macro environment, San Antonio is resilient. You look at any historic period where we have a big downswing, San Antonio economically sustains better than almost any city in the United States. You look within our state, and the same holds true. You look at the recent pandemic, you look at how we're rebounding, how far we fell. San Antonio is a resilient market. Then we can ask about why is that, and that gets back to industry and community and just the foundational elements of San Antonio. But it's a resilient market. The risk side of the equation for San Antonio is much lower. The beta is lower here in San Antonio. Then you've got the reward side. San Antonio has a ton of upside. I'm bullish on San Antonio long-term. That's why I'm investing in San Antonio. I'm personally have 10 hotels in the greater market, as well as some other real estate that we are acquiring. Most recently, my partner, Bobby McGee, and I have pulled together a fund to invest in San Antonio. We are long-term. We are thinking long-term for San Antonio. We believe in San Antonio. Yeah. So we're really excited about that. Finally, I just want to talk to you about this hotel. There's a brief story of this hotel. So one of the things we do at Presidian, we're a faith-based company. We believe in San Antonio. We want to invest into San Antonio. We do that both on the nonprofit basis and for-profit basis. A good example of nonprofit is we're building a Hope Lodge in San Antonio. We'll break ground in 2023. If you've not heard about it, I would ask you to just look at some of the stuff we have in the lobby here at the Estancia. But it'll be a place where people battling cancer in South Texas come to San Antonio and they can stay for free at Hope Lodge. Yeah. Now, in support of that, we are working with the American Cancer Society. Hope Lodge San Antonio received the largest gift ever for the through the American Cancer Society for Hope Lodge. There are about 32 in the country. We got an initial gift that's the largest ever received. And we have some balance to raise, but we have enough to break ground, and we're going to be working on. We'll have cattle barons here this year. Cattle barons will be largely focused on Hope Lodge, San Antonio. So, but the other thing, let me just tell you about the estancia. On the for-profit basis, we're trying to invest into San Antonio. This hotel is a great example of that. This hotel was built in 1978 by a gentleman named Pat Kennedy. Pat wanted to bring a hotel to this part of San Antonio that was the next best thing to being on the San Antonio Riverwalk. It was called the La Mansión del Norte. And beautiful hotel. I can't take credit for the hotel itself. The opportunity to buy this hotel came about 4 years ago. Partnered up with Vantage Bank here, who have been great partners with us for a vision to take this property and really bring it back to being the next best thing to being on the San Antonio Riverwalk. We want people to come into San Antonio and have this opportunity to get a taste of San Antonio. That's what this is all about, being part of the fabric of our community. I want to thank Vantage Bank for your partnership along the way. The pandemic was a bit of a challenge for us, but it's the resilience of the San Antonio community, the kind of partnerships that we can build here in San Antonio that establish a foundation for investment. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to get out of the way, introduce our moderator for the first panel, Rahul Patel. Rahul actually helped us on this hotel. He's helped us on the DoubleTree San Antonio Airport that we acquired as well. He's been a great friend to us, great friend for San Antonio, runs a great practice here in San Antonio. So Rahul, it's all yours, sir.
Good morning, everyone. All right. I'm glad somebody said something about the Spurs pick last night, right? I think that's why everyone's a little hungover still, right? So, I mean, what a great morning to be here. We talk about Invest San Antonio, and I'm going to just say a few words real quick and introduce our panelists. But honestly, yesterday with the Spurs, it's not just the Spurs. That's a massive opportunity for the city of San Antonio, okay? As a kid who grew up in Ohio, I came here with a car and a whole bunch of debt and no money. And this was just a place that was warm enough for a broke kid to stay. But I saw the firsthand what happened to the impact of Ohio with a kid named LeBron James went to Cleveland, right? We have an opportunity that's once in a lifetime that comes around. And as a city, as leaders here, we have to band together. And that's what's made San Antonio so great. It's not like these other places where people are all trying to get their own. We come together, we can really put something special together in San Antonio around sports, and we have one ticket. So it's a great opportunity. So this is a perfect morning to start with. It's the marriage of where sports and life can impact the trajectory of what we're doing. And that's a perfect opportunity. So there's some great things happening in San Antonio. So without further ado, what I like to do is just introduce the panelists for today. And so first, I'd like to introduce Carl Joris, with the Chief Operating Officer for Joris General Contractors. Next, I'd like to introduce Thad Rutherford, who's the President and CEO of Southside Communities. All right, he's brought a contingent with him. Look at that. Woo! South Star likes to party. Look at that. Let's go. Where's the after party at here? We've got good friend Leo Gomez here. All right. Where's it? With Brooks. What's up? How you doing, brother? All right. And we've got the executive director from San Antonio Housing Trust Foundation. I think we've got a substitute this morning. Is that right? All right. And Tom Roth with San Antonio Housing Trust Foundation. So come on, welcome. All right. Hello, is that good? Fun part about being the moderator is I get to just ask the questions and want you guys to duke it out. But with that being said, all right. First question is, for the panel. As San Antonio continues to grow, thanks to the influx of new residents, businesses, and companies settling into this wider region of the greater San Antonio area, do you see the nature of the projects that you're working on changing? And how is the growth influencing the specific projects that you're working on? Specifically the asset class or technical specifications or just the overall size? So first, how about we turn it over to you?
Thank you. The first thing that comes to mind is in the residential market. And no longer are folks looking for the opportunity to just build another traditional multifamily development or another traditional neighborhood. More and more retail, restaurant, food and drink has really got to be in the mix. And, you know, I know we at Brooks, we've got 6 new multifamily developments over the past decade that we've developed there. We are no longer looking at the traditional style of multifamily development anymore. We're looking for podium development on small acreage, retail on the ground floor, some structured parking, and residential above. And that's happening at Brooks. And if it's happening at Brooks, I can imagine what those opportunities are going to be looking like in the rest of San Antonio. I could talk about a lot more stuff, but that's the main difference that I see in our developments over the last couple of years. Got another 1,200 units coming our way.
Let's turn it over to you at South Star. Tell us a little bit about, I know we talked about multifamily and the changing landscape, so maybe you can tell us a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the projects are getting bigger, maybe not scaled bigger from an acreage standpoint, but I think Leo's right. They're getting bigger in the sense of density and mixed uses. I think a lot of what we're seeing these days at our projects and other great developers in their projects are kind of a mixed use component more than just a pure residential. I think people are looking for something a little bit more than just living in a traditional subdivision that's been built out. And I think San Antonio is kind of ripe for those great projects coming down the pike. So, you know, size wise, I think they're getting bigger, but again, more uses. And that goes to what Leo's talking about, not just the residential, but a residential, retail, education, healthcare. All of those things are what are going to drive more people to move here and to stay here, which I think is important.
Well, we're not in residential, but I can tell you that you know, all the growth in the mixed use projects we're seeing in San Antonio are driving our business when it comes to the HEB work we do in the grocery work, education. We do a lot of K through 12 work, the expansion and all the growth with all of our universities, which being you know, Texas A&M San Antonio, UTSA. So yeah, so we're excited to see it. As far as specifications and technology, obviously we're seeing a lot of improvement and a lot of advancement in all of our projects when it comes to technology. So our specifications, of course, are very strict, and we like to deliver when we do.
Yes, one of the things that we're looking at is incorporating universal design standards into our future developments because of a aging population and, you know, folks with disabilities, or having someone with a disability visit you. If you're in a traditional 3-story walk-up, that's quite a challenge. So that's one of the things we're incorporating in our new projects that we're working on.
Kind of common theme I heard a lot of is also building efficiency. You know, when you talk about multifamily and some of these other projects using technology, it kind of reminds me of the lodging industry. You could get a residence in 20 years ago, lots of buildings, lots of roof, lots of parking lot. Today you see a structure that's 5 stories tall, type of compact space, better efficiency. So those are all the advantages of probably construction that are coming forward. So with that, I'm going to change it up a little bit, the build to rent kind of model and what's coming forward. So with the changing landscape of where people are living and how they're living, with all the changes that are happening with affordability, interest rates, and just general kind of change in strategy, we're seeing more and more of these build to rent type single families. Do you see changes and shift in terms of how people are living and where they're spending and how they're spending their money? I'll start with you first.
I'd say there's two different schools of thought there. There's the folks that have the means to live anywhere they want to, and they want more of a lock and leave, but they want to still have the benefits of a single family home structure, whether it's, people that travel a lot or get relocated or elderly folks. But then there's another school where people have kind of outgrown the traditional apartment style living, but they can't afford a house. So that's like the next best thing is to, have a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom, more traditional home where you have a yard and that sort of lifestyle, but it's more because you can't afford to buy a home in the San Antonio area.
First of all, I really urge us to not give up on the American dream to own your home. Maybe it's slowed down, but people are still buying. At Brooks, we got people there on the south side of town buying homes that are starting at $350,000. That's phenomenal for that corner of San Antonio. We've got one home that's contracted for $500,000 right along what I call the frontage to our park. So Dad, I'm sure you're going to be seeing some awesome things over there at Vida. Having said all that, it still comes down to, I think, what people are looking for. Investors are looking for the efficiencies and the returns. The buyers and the residents are looking for quality of life, and they want to be able to walk to something and enjoy it. And if it's not walking, it should be a short drive for them. And that's what we've really focused on at Brooks. And so now we not only have single family homes being built for sale, but we have one of the largest for rent communities that's going to be built in San Antonio. It's going to be 450 homes. And let me tell you, we're building the kind of community that's not necessarily there for those who can't afford a home, but it's for people who choose to live in that kind of community. And that kind of community is going to have, a community center, just like a top-notch apartment community, gym, resort-style pool, dog parks, and walking distance to multiple restaurants. That's what's working. That's what's coming. So the for-rent single-family home is certainly a part of the equation now, but we haven't given up on single-family homes for sale either.
Yeah, I echo. I mean, I feel like every time, Leo, we're on a panel, I'm echoing you because you're so brilliant.
Maybe I'll start with you.
I want a job from Leo. I really do. No, he's exactly right. And I think, look, built to rent has been this word at every conference for the last 6 years that I've attended on real estate. And it is a lot of capital has moved into that market. I think it's still going to be just a component, like Leo said, of the overall housing needs and wants, really the needs of San Antonio and the region. I think that's what I'd like to go back to is it's a component and we need more housing. That is one component of that. Just kind of going all the way back to what Eric said, talking about workforce. Those people need to live somewhere, economic development. Housing is a massive component. The quality of life that someone has in a city largely results to where they're living and what structure they're living in. I think BTR plays a role in that, but I think Leo is exactly right. We can't give up the homeownership kind of goal. It was a part of the housing bond that was just recently passed to the city. I think kudos to the city for doing that, for the voters for doing that. I think we need more of that. And I think we need more housing. I know I sound like a developer saying we need more housing, but that is a portion or a part of this regionalized economic development kind of strategy that San Antonio and all these towns and cities around it. So again, BTR will not go anywhere. I think it will be a component, like Leo said, of the overall housing landscape that we need to continue to improve on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we look at the growth of San Antonio. We had an interesting, for those of you who know what Alamo Angels is, we, serve as the chairman there. We had a company that came and pitched locally, started here, founded here, called Broston Homes, and they're doing something to create entry for folks, right? And a company that's creating the opportunity to at least have your first starter home, right? In an area where it's very difficult to barriers of entry, the financing world, they just seem very tricky. So we're creating opportunity. So, even in this short-term rental or these rentals places, at least they create some roots or opportunities, I think. So it's always good that we're creating roots here in San Antonio that are somewhat more permanent. I want to ask you about short-term rentals. So I'll go to you on the next one.
I think they cover it pretty well.
Yeah. At the beginning of the year, an AGC survey named labor shortages one of the biggest challenges facing the construction industry. I think probably anybody is facing that to some extent right now, but how is that going to force your industry to change? You talked about some of the technological improvements you're putting in. If you could dive a little deeper on what you're doing to see that development continue to help with the development of schools, but more importantly, really keep those costs in line with what we need to continue to feed the demand of these new folks moving here.
So there is definitely a need for workforce, and what we're doing as far as the general contracting community is collaborating with all of our educational facilities, starting early with our K through 12 and our high schoolers, and being able to work with them through vocational and training programs. So it's important to get to these and train these young folks early. I think also the local, state, and federal policies that really support internships and apprenticeships in the construction business is what we'd like to see. I can tell you from George general contracting standpoint, I'm going to read this because there's a lot here that we do locally. Of course, we team with the Northside ISD Construction Careers Academy, the Greater SAT SA Works. As a matter of fact, we had an intern, a high school intern, that came to work for us, and his name is Hazel Mata. He graduated from the internship program. We hired as a full-time carpenter. So, we're always wanting to build and give back to the community. Alamo Fellowships programs and Ready to Work San Antonio. So that's one phase of what we're trying to do is really build our trade and our craftsmen as we go forward. The second thing, as far as technology and what we're doing as far as general contracting and what we're doing, is the embracing technology and innovation. A lot of the work that we're doing now and working closely with our owners and our architects as far as prefabrication is concerned and modular construction. I can tell you recently at the UT Health Science, the UHS project, Wyndham Children's Hospital, we worked with the design team and we prefabricated 250 of the restrooms that went into the building. They're called pods. And we flew them into place. We completely built them in a warehouse in shirts, put them in, raised them up, stuck them in place. And so what that did is that created a higher quality for the hospital. Also, it reduced the number of labor that we had on the job. So that kind of innovation is what we need from a construction industry. So as we move into projects, we're looking on how we can save time and labor by prefabrication and in modular construction. I think diversified workforce. There's a lot of small businesses, as Eric mentioned, and minority companies out there that are looking to expand. So we've got to go out and we've got to find those companies, and we've got to partner with them in order to utilize their labor and give them opportunities. And also, I think we need to foster a positive image of construction. Construction has been kind of known as a hot, dirty project, but there are a lot of advantages, and construction is moving into an area where there's a lot of high technology in it with building information modeling. I don't think AI is coming along real quick and going to take our construction jobs to pour concrete. So we still need the carpenters, the laborers, and the brick masons. So that's what we're focused on primarily, is education, training, and then innovation.
I want to stick to this question, but change it up a little bit for y'all. I'll start with you first this time at the end, so that way he doesn't steal all your thunder. What's one piece of innovation you've seen in your industry in the last year that you feel like is just making its way, but really going to be something that's going to be a game changer for your industry?
Yeah. So real estate development industry is not known for innovation.
Yeah.
We're kind of the old stodgy white guy industry. I know that's easy for me to say that, but it's true. I don't know if this is an innovation, but something that I think we at Southstar kind of realized, seeing other great developers, again, like Leo and others around town, make an impact versus just make a profit. And there's a way to make a profit and an impact. And one of the things that we've used over the last 10 years and are continuing to use our tax increment reinvestment zones and other ways that we can offset costs that then pass that through to actual home buyers. And I don't, we look at it as an innovation because we're looking at a kind of business model of creating housing to be profitable or to invest into San Antonio. And we're using these structures now to kind of, again, offset these costs. We can still, as a private individual or private corporation, make a profit, but also create some better, more attainable housing throughout San Antonio and Bexar County. I think that is going to be a part of every project that we work on for the foreseeable future. It's not just more to the bottom line, and what we're trying to make a bigger impact to is using that again to create more attainable housing. Again, I'll say it again, we need more housing, but we need attainable housing at all strata of income. And I think that is the most important thing that I would hope everyone takes away from this, that I would say is that everyone should go out that have been here longer than 10 years and look to the investors, the capital firms outside of San Antonio, and bring them in to further invest. Like, again, I'll throw it to Leo again, like Brooks is doing, bringing that outside capital. That to me is the innovation. We have a lot of great developers in San Antonio that are doing a lot of great things. We need to bring some people outside of San Antonio, bring capital in to achieve those goals that Eric talked about. I don't know if that's an innovation, but we're going to build roads like we built roads 30 years ago. But I think we can do a little bit better job of how we run our businesses that make a bigger impact to the community and continue to be profitable.
Yeah, I think, South Star comes. I mean, just let us know where the after party is, because I feel like it's going to be a good one. I'll just need at least one invite. But I think COVID taught us a lot. Post COVID is really starting to show who innovated, who really looked at the efficiency of their business. For us, was talking to somebody briefly about, I file 1,000 property tax lawsuits, every year. And they said, how many people do you have? I said, I've got the same 3 folks. Like, that seems like a lot. Not when you've implemented it again in an industry that's full of people that are unwilling to change. We decided to continue to build software, not just to replace people, to make people much more efficient and better. And so I'm curious to see where some of this AI can take us. And we've started to invest heavily in that to help us be better, not just to replace people, but to make people more efficient, more productive. But I'm going to move it to you, a little bit different question. So your colleague that in an interview with Invest had said that there is a demand for outdoor amenities and amenities in general. And what's the interplay between this amenitized living and the current type of housing that's being built around the affordable housing options? So I know I'm putting you on the spot because you didn't answer that, but.
Well, I mean, a lot of the affordable housing is also similar to what the market demands are. You have more people working from home, so high-speed internet access is a requirement. Having instead of a traditional clubhouse, having a business center with just not the 2 computers and the printers, but actually a little offices that people can use, or even a conference room that they can use for business related purposes. Those are things that are definitely changing in the design. It's more of a lifestyle. People are demanding those things now. If you're looking at competing properties, they're going to check the box, and if yours doesn't have these things, they're going to go to the other property.
So Leo, I want to start with you on this one. Tell us a little bit about what Brooks is doing. Okay, so some folks may have heard it, know it. I'd like for you to maybe just tell a little bit about what Brooks is and what they're doing for folks that may not really know it.
Well, I'll tell you in general, what we're doing in the big picture is we've been challenging the status quo. Right? We at Brooks, let me take you back to, I was on a panel in Guadalajara, believe it or not, talking about urban development and economic development, and they're doing some great things in Guadalajara.
By 151?
Oh, no, way down
Okay.
151, way down 151. But, I was on a panel with 2 economists and me, right? And the economists were talking about data. And I hope my friends at Capital Analytics, Abby, take this for what the good that it's meant to be. But they were talking about following the data. If you want to be successful, you got to follow the data. The data will show you the way. When it came to me, I said, well, you know what? I don't follow the data. I drive it. And that sounded kind of bold. But I think I got everybody to think for a moment. You know, where can you find the best opportunities? But then by studying the data, looking for gaps, and being the one that can fill the gap. Okay? Did we forget that? Okay? That's what we're doing at Brooks. That's what we've been doing over the last 10 years. You know, on the southeast side of San Antonio, on a former base, we've had $1 billion worth of development in 10 years. And this year alone, we have another $500 million underway. In southeast San Antonio. San Antonio as a whole should be proud of that. There was a gap, there was demand there that quite frankly, people in San Antonio did not believe in about 10 years ago. So that I had to go find money outside of San Antonio. And then once they started getting a nice return on their investment, all my friends from San Antonio started calling. And they're welcome to call, and I still encourage them to call. But that's what we're doing at Brooks.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the housing.
Well, we continue to work with developers to acquire properties to build on. We're building one at Thad's area in Vida, one with NRP, a new development there, which has affordability from 30% all the way up to 80%. And that's possible because of a lot of people working there. The capital stack was phenomenal. I mean, we had Bear County money, ARPA money, city money, tax credits, but it takes a village sometimes to make these things happen because the cost to build these is the same. It doesn't, you don't get a discount because you're building affordable housing. The bricks and sticks still cost the same. So that's one of the things. We're just looking for different ways to incorporate affordable housing and universal design features in our future projects.
Carl, you've obviously had a big impact on the footprint here in San Antonio. Tell us a little bit about kind of this journey and where it's gone over the last few years, but where you see it going with your company on its impact as it continues to grow San Antonio. And a second question is, if there are folks in here that want to kind of see the next area, where do you see that being around the greater San Antonio area?
Well, thank you. And obviously, yeah, we've had a good run, and you know, we've been in business for over 57 years here in San Antonio. We call it home. We invest in San Antonio. Our people have grown. We have carpenters and people have worked with us for 35, 40 years. And so, you know, we love it here. As far as the growth in San Antonio and what we're seeing, obviously, you know, we feel like the K-12 through 12 market's going to continue on. Higher education between the universities on the north side and the south side are definitely an area that we're going to be looking into. We've diversified into healthcare. We feel like, you know, all the work going on in the medical center is obviously something that that we need to be part of. Obviously, you know, the airport work that's coming up, you know, we'll be looking into seeing how we can participate there. And then really stick to our core business. You know, we've also about a year and a half ago started an industrial warehouse division. So we're looking into that type of work. Obviously, there's a lot of work coming in on the industrial warehouse side. You know, and you know, throughout the other day, I think renewables are something that we can't ignore. It's something that you know, we're seeing on some, if not all, of our projects when it comes to solar and wind. In order to achieve a net zero, you know, we finished Credit Human building, which is I think one of the first net zero buildings in San Antonio. And so it's got geothermal, it's got solar, it's got water harvesting. So I think, you know, those are the kinds of things and those kinds of projects that we'll be seeing coming in the future as we move on.
I'm going to go off script for the last question. I'm getting a 5-minute talk here. So this was kind of a discussion point that came out outside, but I guarantee you every one of us kind of felt this to some extent. Is we go down to the Spurs game, okay, and then we get the hell out of there as fast as possible. What's it going to take now to make that area something that people want to go to, right? I mean, as I've gone to what was that? Yeah. What's it going to really take, right? Because other than parking and getting out of there there's really no reason for us to congregate there or stay there. And that's a challenge. So what's it going to take for us to make that an area that's a scene for us to want to go to?
When we decide to. Go for it. Let me tell you, that ain't gonna happen unless it's intentional. And there's dedicated resources to make it happen. What's been going on at Brooks didn't just happen. It's been very intentional. It's been planned. The resources were provided to make it happen. That's not been done by our community at the AT&T Center, and quite frankly, in other areas of town. And I'll say this, and other areas of town, and I'm gonna talk about areas that have had decades of poverty, about 20% or more. Okay? The Brooks region, the neighborhoods that surround Brooks, have had a level of poverty of over 20% for the last few decades. We accepted that. Until we decided to do something about it, we began to change it. And I'll give you these set of data. Since 2016, the poverty rate in the Brooks region has gone down by 7%. Since 2016, the household income in the Brooks region has gone up by 24%. That didn't just happen. It was intentional. Somebody was dedicated. A group of folks, I call them Brooks believers, were dedicated to making it happen. So if we want to welcome our new #1 pick to a thriving area around the AT&T Center, we got to get intentional about it.
Yeah, I think we welcome them, but can we keep them? And that's what it's going to take, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And open up to anyone.
Yeah, I think part of that intentionality that Leo's talks about, and I'll kind of loop it back to why we're all here today, is the regionalized economic development strategy that we have. You know, we talk a lot about San Antonio. This is a region. It's going to take that regionalized kind of attitude for the smaller towns and cities around San Antonio that do feed economic development into this city. And I think that's important for us not to get lost on that. I think we have very strong chambers. I'm a little bit biased myself since I'm on the South Texas Business Partnership Board, but I think we have very strong chambers. And I think that regionalized economic development strategy and the strong kind of business community that we have, that's going to take that outside investment into our kind of region. And we could do those things that you're exactly talking about and hopefully have some more bold vision like Mr. Gomez.
Well, thank you very much. For those of you that still have some questions, South Star is hosting the after hours, so we'll be over there. So thank you.